Today we are talking about the Asian hornet. I will try to summarize the main impacts that are generated by these species in Europe and the strategies that could be adopted for monitoring the presence of the Asian hornet, to the strategies that could be adopted for attempting eradication or control the species for limiting its impact on biodiversity and on the social sphere. Many of you surely already know about the Asian hornet. Vespa velutina is a species that is native in Southeast Asia and that has been introduced in South Korea and Japan and in Europe in 2004. Among the 13 subspecies that are present in Asia, the northernmost species, which is Vespa velutina nigrithorax, is the one that has been introduced in either invaded ranges. This subspecies is characterized by a black thorax and a black abdomen with a yellow band at the end, and by the extreme parts of the legs of a yellow color. The Asian hornet has been introduced in Europe in 2004 in France, near Bordeaux, probably due to human-mediated transportation of habitat materials and pottery, the commercial of pots and plants. And in just 15 years, the species was able to colonize up to 10 or be spotted in up to 10 European countries. Now the species is present from Portugal to Italy to Belgium and has been also observed recently in Netherlands, Switzerland, Luxembourg, and in the United Kingdom. The reasons that are behind these capabilities, spread capabilities of these species are related to the spread modalities. The Asian hornet is able to spread unaided by the natural dispersal of mated queens, but also due to human-mediated transportations. Human-mediated transportation could occur by the transportation of nursery material, woods, habitat material, straw that are containing queens that are hibernating during the winter seasons, or by the transport of queens through contaminants of food, contaminants of materials, beekeeping materials, or as hijackers through the transport of containers and cars. The Asian hornet has an annual development cycle, and this is relevant for the management and for the establishment of eradication plans for these species. Queens that are able to survive the winter during January and February emerge from their wintering sites and starts to build an embryo nest during the month of March and April. Then starts to egg laying, and during the month of May, the first workers emerge from the cells and starts to help the queen in enlarging the colony and in gathering food resources for feeding the brood. So from the month of July, many hornets can be observed by preying honeybees in front of honeybee colonies, and then the colony is enlarged, and by September starts the reproductive phase of the colony, which produce initially the males and then the newfound vagines that are creating after the winter period another cycle. At the end of the autumn, all the colony collapse, and just the queens could survive the winter for creating hibernating sites. Colonies of the Asian hornet are generally producing a mean of 6,000 hornets for each year. That could reach higher values of 12,000 and up to 13,000 of hornets. And each colony could generate a mean of 200 new queens, with higher values that could reach 400 to 500 queens. The presence of the Asian hornet in Europe is generating an impact on multiple components, and primarily on beekeeping, so on the apiculture sector, and on honeybee colonies. The species is spraying honeybees by hovering in front of the hives for catching the forager bees that are returning back to the colonies. And during the summer and the autumn seasons, the number of hornets that are preying on honeybees increase. This is a picture that has been taken in Italy during the month of October, and you can see that there is a honeybee colony completely covered by hornets of Vespa velutina. If you count them, there are more than 100 hornets that are trying to catch bees that are inside the colony. So this hornet could generate colony losses. It has been estimated that losses associated to the presence of Vespa velutina could range from 20 to 30% of the colonies. And colony losses could be associated only for the presence of the Asian hornet, or through a combination with other pathologies and parasites that are affecting honeybee colonies. The presence of the Asian hornet in Europe is, however, posing other impacts on other components, since the honeybees are just 40%, 30 to 40% of the prey that are of the prey spectrum of the Asian hornet. So in areas where there are no honeybee colonies, the prey spectrum is shifted towards other native species, and particularly towards other Hymenoptera, other wasp species, and flies like Syrphidae, that are all important insects for the biodiversity and pollination ecosystem services. It has been demonstrated that the presence of Vespa velutina in Spain could generate an impact on the ecosystems, on the pollination of mint plant. Furthermore, these species could compete with other native species with which Vespa velutina is sharing food resources, nesting sites, and ecological characteristics. It has been demonstrated that the Asian hornet is competing with Vespa similima in South Korea and Japan, leading to a decrease in the abundance and the distribution of the native species. And this is also related to a more aggressive score of the Asian hornet than the aggressive score of the native species. These competitions has also been supposed in Europe, in particular with the European hornet Vespa crabro, with which the species is sharing food resources and partially sharing nesting sites and partially sharing the seasonal phenology. And finally, the presence of the Asian hornet in Europe is generating massive economic impacts, either in relation to honeybee colony collapse, but also for the implementation of control strategies that are mainly based on nest destruction activities. It has been estimated that about 23 million euro were spent in France from 2006 to 2015 just for nest destruction activities. And finally, the presence of these species in urban and rural areas is a concern for the citizens, and in some occasion, the presence of this hornet could lead to fatal events, as has been reported either in France and Spain. Because of all these reasons, the Asian hornet has been classified as an invasive alien species of union concern in relation to the European regulation of invasive alien species. And therefore, member states are required to implement strategies for preventing new introductions, monitoring strategies for early detecting the presence of the species, and attempt a rapid eradication of the species in the areas of introductions, and strategies for controlling and limiting its impacts in areas where the species is widespread and in areas where the species cannot be eradicated. So the monitoring of the presence of the Asian hornet could be performed on a wide scale by integrating two different approaches. A beekeepers monitoring network and a citizen science monitoring schemes. Why the beekeepers? The beekeepers are the stakeholders that are directly most affected by the spread of the Asian hornet. They have the greatest chance of observing and detecting the species, since the Asian hornet is attracted by the odors of the honeybee colonies and are attracted in apiaries for catching bees for raising the brood. But beekeepers are already widespread in the environment. It has been estimated that there are 655,000 beekeepers in Europe, and many of them are already locally coordinated by beekeepers associations. So there is already a wide monitoring network that could just be activated. How the beekeepers could contribute for monitoring the presence of the Asian hornet. They could contribute by trapping hornets, for example, with bottle traps, by monitoring their presence of the Asian hornet in apiaries, or by reporting the presence of nests or hornets in the environment, as for the citizen science monitoring programs. Trapping hornets is generally performed from the beginning of the spring throughout the seasons and until the end of the autumn seasons. During the spring, traps generally are able to trap founder queens. Then from May onwards, traps could catch workers, and then in the autumn seasons they could also catch males and angines, so new founder queens. Several models of traps have been developed tested and developed in Europe since the introduction of the species in France in 2004. Most approaches are effective for assessing the presence of Vespa velutina because many of these traps in general are able to attract wasps and hornets. However, most approaches are not totally selective. It has been demonstrated that the Asian hornet represents from 1 to 2% of the whole collected insects of these traps. So detrimental effects on native biodiversity should be taken into considerations, and therefore traps should be used for monitoring purposes at a low density, and should be improved by, for example, implementing holes for allowing insects of small size to escape from these traps. Beekeepers, as stated before, could also report the presence of hornets in apiaries. In general, Vespa velutina could be observed frequently since the month of July, with peaks that occur during the end of September and the first weeks of November. The Asian hornet is clearly recognizable from other hornet species in apiaries, since the different preying behavior, which is characterized by facing the honeybees, forager bees that are returning back to their colonies. And finally, beekeepers, but also citizens, could report the presence of the hornets in the environment or the presence of nests. Hornets could be seen when feeding on fruits or on flowers, or also when preying other insects on flowers, while nests could be observed in tree canopies, so in natural areas, or also in urban areas. For example, many nests are reported in the cities on the roof, under the roof of the buildings, or a small percentage of these nests could also be located in cavities. So inside manhole in urban areas, or in natural cavities in natural and rural environments. The proportion of the latter nest is quite smaller than the proportion of nests that are reported on buildings or on trees. The beekeepers monitoring network could be integrated with a citizen science monitoring scheme for engaging people in reporting in general insects that are seen in the environment, and particularly wasps, and this could contribute either to observe and monitor the presence of the Asian hornet, but also the presence of other non-native wasps that could be introduced in Europe. Many examples of citizen science projects and applications are available for monitoring the presence of the Asian hornet. For example, it has been developed by the European Commission, the Invasive Alien Species app, for monitoring invasive alien species of union concern, so also the Asian hornet. But at the national levels, the other member states have developed other monitoring programs, other citizen science monitoring programs, such as the Asian Hornet Watch in UK, the Livestock Vespa and Stop Vespa Velutina projects in Italy, and other monitoring schemes, such as the Vespa Watch project on the iNaturalist platform. In general, this project, these monitoring schemes allow to record and to gather thousands of reports every year from the citizens. The citizen science monitoring project developed by the Livestock Vespa in Italy allowed us to record about 1,600 reports since the activation of the project website. And these reports were received in general by all the Italian regions, but particularly from the regions that are invaded by the Asian hornet, or by the regions that are surrounding the main colonized areas. In general, reports as for all the insects increase from April to May, and then decrease during the end of the autumn seasons. And interestingly, for the monitoring of the Asian hornet, it has been recorded a high misidentification rate. So of the 1,600 reports that we have received, 56% were containing, were associated with photos that allowed us to identify the reported species, and just in 15% of the cases, these reports were related to the Asian hornet, while in 85% of the other cases, the citizens were reporting other species. In particular, the European hornet Vespa crabro, 72% of the misidentifications reports, which is either misidentified with the Asian hornet, but also with the giant hornet Vespa mandarina, which is not present in Europe, and other species such as Vespula vulgaris, Vespula germanica, or other Vespa species such as Vespa orientalis, which is a native species in the southern part of Italy and in the Mediterranean areas. Interestingly, these monitoring schemes in Italy allow it to detect other non-native species. So, for example, the resin bee Megachilles sculpturalis, and evaluate detect other species that are enlarging their distribution range, probably due to climate change, such as is occurring for Vespa orientalis in Italy. Citizens are also reporting nests. However, nests are much more difficult to be identified and determined. When nests are when hornets and wasps are on the surface of the nest, it is more simple to identify the species. However, there are cases where hornets are not present in the picture, so this requires the other pictures or a verification of the morphological characteristics of the nest, such, for example, by measuring the cell diameter of the nest. And which are the strategies that could be adopted after the Asian hornet has been reported in a new area? Generally, after the reporting of the Asian hornet from a new area of introductions, eradication strategies should be implemented for attempting an eradication of the species. These strategies rely mainly on the application of techniques for locating the position of the nest, because if these nests could be located before the beginning of the reproductive phase of the colonies, which occur during the month since the month of September, could prevent the diffusion of new founder queens in the environment, and potentially could lead to the eradication of the species. Many techniques have been tested and developed in these years for monitoring the presence, for locating the position of the nest. Some of these are traditional techniques that are not requiring tools, particular tools or equipment, while other are requiring more specific equipment, such as for harmonic radar, radio tracking, or the use of thermal imaging cameras. So visual tracking and triangulation of flying directions is an approach that has been adopted with success in Majorca Island, and has led to the eradication, probably to the eradication of the species. Vespa velutina has been detected in Majorca, in the northern part of the island, in 2015. And in following years, several nests and observations of the species were reported in the surrounding area. In this case, the authors and the government of Majorca established a strategy for locating nests by visual tracking of hornets. They used protein baits for attracting wasps, and particularly they wait until hornets, Vespa velutina, were collecting protein pellets from these baits, and then following visually through the use of a binocular the fly, and so follow the directions of the hornets that are carrying the prey pellet back to their nest for feeding the brood. By the use of several protein baits, they could triangulate the flying directions, so for locating the position of the nest. In Majorca, they apply this technique from 2015 to 2017. They were able to locate the position of about 30 nests of Vespa velutina, in general between the summer and the autumn seasons. For performing this activity, a team of 2 people was engaged for working full-time 5 days a week for trying to locate a nest of the Asian hornet. In general, it could be seen that at the beginning of this activity, the team the effort of the team was of about 2 months for detecting the position of one nest of Vespa velutina. However, with the gaining of the experience of the operator, this time decreased, and in 2017 they were able to locate the nest in a couple of days and up to 20 working days. For reducing the time that is necessary for locating the nest of Vespa velutina in the environment, technological techniques could be used, for example, the harmonic radar tracking or radio tracking techniques. The harmonic radar technique is a technique that has been developed by the Polytechnic University of Turin in Italy within the activities of the Livestock Vespa project. And in the years, 2 prototypes were developed, and these prototypes generates a series of a signal in the environment that is retransmitted back by the tag which is fixed on the thorax of the hornets. So for applying this tracking approach, we collected hornets in the apiaries while Vespa velutina was preying on honeybees that are returning back to the colonies. We were tagging these hornets by applying a passive tag without that do not require the use of a battery on the thorax of the hornet without anesthetizing the hornet and by using an orthodontical glue. And then we rapidly released these hornets in the trapping sites in the apiaries, and tagged hornets are able to fly and are able to prey again honeybees in the apiaries. The harmonic radar is recording independently the position of the tagged hornet in the environment, and this allows to identify the main flying directions that were fundamental for locating the position of the nest in the environment. I've reported an example of a tracking session in the outbreak of Arcola in La Spezia in Italy. This is a complex example because in this area is characterized by a complex orography and by the presence of many obstacles such as woodlands and buildings, and by the presence of several apiaries where several hornets were preying on honeybees. In this monitoring scenario, we started to tag hornets in the first apiary by positioning the radar in the position P1 and followed the fly of the hornets, recorded the fly of the hornets in the direction north-northwest. Then we moved the radar, in these cases in the second position, and continued the tracking of the hornets. We moved, in this case, the radar up to 7 positions, and by the convergence of the track in an area, we were able to locate the position of the nest of the Asian hornet. During these tracking sessions, the nest was detected in 3 days by tagging an overall of 14 hornets, and the nest was located at a distance of 500 meters from the starting apiary. I've also reported the picture of the nest that has been detected with the harmonic radar. The nest is located in the tree canopy at 10 meters from the ground and can hardly be seen visually if the position is not known. And just by knowing the position and by using a binocular, it could be spotted in the tree canopy. So we implemented in these years the tracking of hornets with the harmonic radar, and overall we were able to record about 250 fixes, so position of the hornets in the environment in 9 study areas, and we were able to reconstruct the tracks of about 390 hornets. These tracks were have an average length of 100 meters per track that in some cases could increase to 250 and 300 meters for single tracks. We also analyzed if the environmental variables could affect the performances of the harmonic radar tracking. So we tested with GLM if the environmental variables such as land cover characteristics, slope, degree, elevation, or distances from the roads could affect the length of the tracks recorded with the harmonic radar. We saw that land cover characteristics such as urban areas and woodlands are not negatively are not affecting tracking length, as you can observe in the pictures on the right. But slope degree could actually affect the tracking length, and this is related to the angle, the detection angle of the harmonic radar. So by increasing the slope degree, it decreases the length of the tracks recorded with the harmonic radar. The application of this technique in Italy allowed to obtain new information on the ecology and the flying characteristics and flying behavior of the Asian hornet. And we were able to assess the foraging range from the apiaries where hornets were preying on honeybees. And we estimated a mean foraging range of about 400 meters with maximum distances of 780 meters of distance of radius. This is a relevant information since it's an information that could be used for eradication strategies when the species is reported in an area and when strategies for locating nests should be implemented. This technique also allows us to obtain flying parameters such as flying speed of foraging hornets or homing hornets. Homing hornets are those hornets that are carrying a prey pellet back to the nest. Other techniques could be used for locating the nest of the Asian hornet. Peter Kennedy and co-authors tested with success the radio tracking technique for locating Vespa velutina's nest either in France and in UK. With this technique, they apply a tag which is below the hornet with a wire that is attached between the thorax and the abdomen. Then I've reported the cases of tracking in France. They release these hornets in the location highlighted with the R letter, and they were able to track their flight back to their nest and locating several nests for example, in this area, at a distances that could vary from 200 meters to 1.3 kilometers of distances. This technique has advantages and limits if compared with the harmonic radar tracking. The main advantages are that the initial equipment costs are lesser than cost for a harmonic radar, and the maneuverability in areas without a wide road network are higher than harmonic radar. However, this technique required the use of tags that are more expensive and are have a weight higher than 10 to 15 times the weight of the tags that are used for harmonic radar. So could affect flying capabilities of the species, particularly during the spring or early summer, when hornets have a weight which is lesser than the weight of the hornets that emerge during the end of the summer or during the autumn. Another technique that could be used for monitoring and locating the position of the nest may be the use of thermal imaging cameras. This technique has been adopted for monitoring a wide range of species, from mammals, but also for locating nests of Vespula and Bombus, so for Hymenoptera. So we tested if this technique could also be adopted for the location of Vespa velutina's nest in 2018 in Liguria, in Italy. We monitored during the month of August, which is the hottest month of the year, 3 nests under different environmental and operative conditions. We saw that all the nests that were monitored can be detected by the thermal imaging camera. Nest number 3 in general was more detectable than the other nest. However, environmental and operative conditions could affect nest detectability. The implementation of this work was allowed us to estimate which are the optimal detectability conditions for the use of the thermal imaging for locating nests of the Asian hornet. So optimal detectability conditions occur when the environmental temperatures are below 32 degrees, during the morning before sunrise, and obviously when nests are not covered or partially covered by leaves and branches of the trees, and by adopting searching approaches that involve scanning at short distances. So nests were more detectable at short distances, despite in some cases when there are optimal detectability conditions, nests have been detected up to 30 meters of distances from the operator. When eradication strategies fails to eradicate the Asian hornet from an area, long-term control strategies should be adopted for decreasing the spread capabilities and the impacts of these species. The main strategy that is adopted for controlling the species is in all European countries colonized by Vespa velutina is nest destruction. Nest destructions allows to contain the spread of the Asian hornet, decrease the impact of the species either on beekeeping and biodiversity, and afford a social issue, which is hundreds or thousands of reports from citizens that are requesting the removal of the nest from their houses or their gardens. So many strategies could be adopted. Techniques for nest removal may vary on the basis of nest size and on the basis of the position of the nest. For example, small nests could be removed in an easier way than large colonies during the autumn seasons. And also nests near the ground or reachable by the operator could be removed in easier than nests located at 20 or 30 meters above the ground. And of course, techniques and strategies for removing nests should also consider the presence of people where the activity should be implemented, the proximity to rivers if insecticides is used for the treatment of the nest, and the presence of electric cables in the case of the use of telescopic poles. So many techniques for removing the nest could be adopted. Mechanical destructions is generally performed in spring when colonies are of small size. And in this case, mechanical destruction should be performed at night when the queen is inside the nest. For effectively removing the colony, while small colonies could also be treated by the manual use of insecticide sprays or by the injections of insecticides by the use of telescopic poles or by the use of ladder trucks and telescopic poles for reaching the nest. The systematic nest removal that has been developed in Italy contributed to contain the spread of the species along the coastline and decreasing the impacts of these species on biodiversity and apiculture. In the map, I've reported the spread of the species from 2013 up to 2018, which is the year that ended the control activities implemented by the Livestock Vespa project. And we saw that 98% of the detected nests in 2018 were inside the area that was already colonized by 2015. And we also recorded a decrease of the spread rate along the coastline and of the area colonized, of the new area colonized by the Asian hornet in Italy. So for concluding and for summarizing the main aspects of this webinar, effective monitoring strategies for the Asian hornet could be established by integrating a monitoring scheme with the engagement of the beekeepers and a citizen science approach. The monitoring strategies could allow to detect the presence of the Asian hornet, but requires effort for the screening of the reports and screening of the misidentification rates. But monitoring schemes may also help to detect other non-native species. So, for example, other wasp species that may be introduced in Europe. Techniques for locating nests could use it for improving the likelihood of eradicating the species before a permanent establishment. And if eradication strategies fails to remove the species, long-term control strategies should be implemented, and a systematic approach of nest removal may help to contain, spread, and impact of the Asian hornet. So thank you very much for your attention, and if there are any questions, I will be happy to address them.
Thank you very much, Simone. That was really interesting. I think that's amazing that you're using thermal cameras to detect the nests, or you're looking into it. There's lots of comments in the chat. It looks also like Sandro Bertolino has been answering quite a few. I'm not sure if Jacobos, you would like to ask a question at all, or if you feel it's been answered already. But
no, actually, I had a question. First of all, I'd like to thank you. It was a very interesting presentation, and thank you for really helpful. I personally love working with Hymenoptera and invasive species, so it's really an eye-opener to what kind of things can be done in order to combat alien species. I had a question about if any work has been done with mapping the distribution of the species in the rest of Europe using climatological data, but I believe it's already being answered by Dr. Sandro Bertolino, who gave me some valuable literature. I don't know if you want to comment something on it, but that was my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, I was not able to read the chat many times, so I actually not understand very well the questions. I'm going back to reading now, but if it's already addressed by Sandro, so it could be
with the distribution information for the Asian hornet across Europe. Across Europe,
yes. Well, there are many monitoring projects that have been developed, have you seen in the presentation, so in all of Europe, and importantly, monitoring schemes should be established in areas where the Asian hornet is not already present, for early detecting the presence of the species and attempting an eradication of the species.
Thank you, Simone and Jacobos. Tim, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, hi Simone. I really enjoyed your talk. It's a super great overview of the situation in Europe and how you handle it in Italy, and especially the fact that you guys are actually one of the few projects that really managed to decrease the distribution area, or perhaps the future distribution area of the species in Italy. It's a message that is incredibly important for us in Belgium, for instance, to convince decision makers that it is useful to manage this invasive insect. So thank you for that. I do have a lot of questions actually. One is which insecticides you generally use in Italy for nest destruction, and whether you considered in making that choice the non-target impacts of insecticides on the environment or secondary intoxication of birds, for instance. And whether you know of any alternative products that are more environmentally friendly. It's a question that we recently got from our wasp management authorities.
Yeah. In Italy, treatment of nests are performed by the use of permethrin insecticides, and these substances are particularly of risk for fishes and cats. So a particular attention should be paid when use pyrethroid insecticides near rivers. So in that cases, we remove the nest or pay attention to not to spread insecticides in rivers. Other strategies could be adopted. For example, in Mallorca, they tree climbed the trees for reaching the nest, and at night, and then they cover the nest with a plastic bag, and remove the nest directly without the use of insecticides. In that case, the entrance of the nest should be closed by in Italy it's called polyurethane, a polyurethanic powder, so to prevent the attacks of the hornets to the operator, and could directly be removed by the trees or by the buildings. And recently it has been tested the effectiveness of steam. So steam could kill the colonies, but the use of steams is particularly complicated in areas that are not in urban areas. So because the use of steams is related to the availability of a power generator and equipment, specific equipment. So it's much more complicated, but can be developed and used for the treatment of the nest. And the use of steams and the removal of nests actually do not foresee the use of insecticides, so it's a biodiversity-friendly method that can be used.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the question, Tim.
Thank you very much, Tim and Simone. I think maybe we can have one more question and then finish. Petter, Nikoluk, would you like to ask a question?
Thank you. Actually, I do not have any questions, but I was listening carefully because in Republic of Srpska, I want to do surveillance on Vespa velutina, and I have some grant from ministry, so I will use this new knowledge in July and August to set some traps in close to the bees, and I will see how it's going to be I'm not sure is there any Vespa velutina right now, but I will do surveillance this year.
Yes, yes. Traps could be placed near beehives or also near rivers and water resources, because the species is using water for building their colonies. So these are suitable places, and could be implemented with integrated with citizen science schemes if you are able to create a project of citizen science.
Yeah, I will do. And tell me, how important is Vespa velutina for fruit production, for pear, apple? When Vespa is in high numbers, can it do some economically important damage?
On food productions, the impacts of Vespa velutina on food productions have not been estimated. It has been estimated for other wasp species, and it's an issue particularly for vineyards. Wasps are a particular issue for vineyards and fruit productions, because they could create damaged fruits, so it cannot be commercialized. But they also could create a damage that allow other insects or to get inside the fruits and prevent the commercialization. Impacts on these sectors have been estimated probably for polistes or some polistes or Vespula in the United States, but not for the Asian hornet yet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Simone, and everyone for attending. If you have any questions for Simone, feel free to email CA to CA17122 email address, and we will forward them on to Simone. But